Dear audience, Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Khurram Shahzad from National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. Today I am going to make a video on ambiguity. Well, dear audience, when we are supposed to interpret any text or talk, we come across the concept of ambiguity. The videos that I have made on literary theory, I have already talked about that how ambiguity is to be resolved. For example, in new criticism, Russian formalism, structuralism, we have come across this word. And it is the job of the literary critic that in order to reach the final conclusion on any piece of text or talk, he or she has to resolve the ambiguity. So, language is full of ambiguity. We should remember when we are dealing with human beings, whenever we are interacting with human beings, okay, ambiguity somehow or the other is created because the language that we are making use of, it is full of ambiguous terms, ambiguous words. The concept of ambiguity is also dealt in semantics because usually ambiguity, which means that multiple meanings one word can have, so it means that semantics has to play its role. Therefore, let me define ambiguity first. A word, phrase, or a sentence is ambiguous if it has more than one meaning. In other words, ambiguity has more than one interpretation. So, the very first concept that we come across in order to deal with ambiguity is the lexical item. And the approach that I am going to take up today is the bottom up approach. I will start with words, lexical items, and then I will move on to talk about sentences and then some of the figures of speech. For example, we have got metonymy and metaphor. And usually such type of figures of speech, they create ambiguity in the text. Lexical item is a word which is defined by the dictionary that dictionary makes use of a paraphrase. So dog will be defined as that an animal, it has got four legs and a tail and it barks. So it means that a student or a learner will have to understand the concept of barking. The learner should know what is meant by legs. The learner should know what is meant by a tail. And then in some of my lectures on semantics, I have already talked about different levels of meanings. So we have got expression level of meaning. We have got context of utterance level of meaning. And we have got communicative level of meaning. So the very first level, that is the expression level, where we are supposed to understand the lexical word, that what it means. So we need to understand the syntactic composition of the sentence. We need to understand that what is meant by this word grammatically, what is the formation of this word in grammar. For example, we have got word like light. So light, a candle. Here light is a verb. Light a candle. A bright light. So here light is a noun. Adjective. A light color. So it means that light can be used as a verb. It can be used as a noun. It can be used as an adjective. And when we talk about adjective, again it has got variations. For example, we have got light versus dark. So, ambiguity is created when we try or when we are dealing with hyponyms and polysemy in English. For example, hyponymy is a concept which is coming from lexical semantics. It means that the in writing it is the same, in speaking it is the same, but it has got unrelated meaning. But in polysemy we have got words, they have got almost the same meaning. And in English language or all other languages of the world, most of the words in English, they are polysemous. It means that they have got multiple meanings. Another example can be of a word like walk. Walk is a noun. Take a walk. Walk is an intransitive verb. Walk in the park. Walk can be a transitive verb. Walk the dog. So we will have to see that how the word is used. We will have to see that what is the formation of this word. We will have to see that what are the other things that we can do with this word. We should know the gender, we should know the number, we should know the person, because in this way we will be in a position to make use of this lexical item in a sentence. So sometimes a word, it can be a masculine in one language, but it can be a feminine in another language. So in translation, people may have issues. So when we are interpreting something in our context and that text is coming to us from a foreign culture, for example, the British or American or Canadian culture, so we will have to see that what is the etymology of that word. For example, German word blue, it can have different meanings which English word blue does not have. So we will have to see the etymology of the word. We will have to see that how this word is written, how it is used in the context. So lexical ambiguity is created because of homonyms and polysemy. Having discussed the concept of lexical ambiguity, we should move on to discuss syntactic ambiguity. For example, don't lie in bed. Now here the word lie, it can have two meanings. Don't lie in bed, that you should not tell a lie, or don't lie here. But when we use it in the past form, so we can have the understanding he lied in bed or he lay in bed. So here, because the second form of lie is lay, we can easily understand that what kind of meaning variation we can find in this word or in this syntactic structure. Then we have got another word like BOW, that how you are going to read it. Bow, so bow and arrow. BOW, bow. Again, it has got two meanings. So bow in one meaning means that bending. And then we have got tail and tail, story and story, STOREY. Through and through, THREW and THROUGH. Right with W and right with R. So when we are coming across text which contains such type of homonyms or polysemic words, ultimately ambiguity is created. And whenever the lexical word it has got ambiguity, it means that multiple interpretations can be made. So far as grammatical ambiguity is concerned, syntactical ambiguity is concerned, we will have to see the grammatical meaning of that sentence. We will have to see the syntactic structure of that sentence. We will have to break down the structure into its lexical items to see that what is meant by the content words, what is meant by the function words, what kind of role they are playing in this sentence, how these words they are combined together, and then they are giving the compositional meaning of that sentence. Open another window. Now this is the sentence. Open another window. So it could be if you are sitting in the room that you are asking someone to open another window, but it could be if you are sitting, laptop is in front of you and you want the other person to open another window on the laptop. So it means that here syntactic ambiguity is created. John and Mary are married. So again, we don't know whether John and Mary, they are married together, or John and Mary, they have different spouses. Flying planes can be dangerous. So again, flying in planes can be dangerous or flying planes can be dangerous. So it has got syntactic ambiguity. Another kind of ambiguity that is created is of metonymy or metaphor. And here the role of mind is very important. Metonymy is a figure of speech consisting of the use of the name of one thing or that of another, of which it is an attribute or with which it is associated, as crown in lands belonging to the crown. So, crown, you know, when we are dealing with metonymy and metaphor, we should remember that we have got two domains. One is called source domain and the other is called target domain. So when something is taken to the target from the source, usually we are dealing with metaphor. And when the domain remains the same, we are dealing with metonymy. Metaphor is the phenomena where one conceptual domain is structured in terms of another. Your claims are indefensible. Another metaphor can be argument is war. So X understood in terms of Y. So here we have got two domains, source domain and the target domain. Lakoff and Johnson argue that metonymy, just as metaphor, is conceptual in nature. So of course, we will have to conceive these things in our mind. Our mind, it has got the ability to understand, to process different kinds of things in the context. So of course, when we are generating metaphors or metonymies, we are making use of our cognitive abilities. So they are conceptual in nature. Some scholars have suggested that metonymy is even a more fundamental concept than metaphor, and some have claimed that metaphor itself has a metonymic basis. Philosophers and cognitive linguists have shown that metaphors and metonymies are powerful cognitive tools for our conceptualization of abstract categories. Along the scholar tradition, metaphor and metonymy form part of the literary field among the studies of style and rhetoric techniques. The essence of metaphor lies in an interaction between a metaphorical expression and the context in which it is used. Usually, some of the words that we make use of, they are head, for example, head of department, head of state, head of the government, head of a page, head of a queue, head of a flower, face, face of a mountain, face of a building, face of a watch, eye of a potato, eye of a needle, eye of a hurricane, eye of a butterfly, mouth, mouth of a hole, mouth of a tunnel, mouth of a cave, mouth of a river, lips, lips of a cup, lips of a jug, lips of a crater, lips of a plate, nose, nose of an aircraft, nose of a tool, nose of a gun, neck, neck of hand, neck of land, neck of the woods, neck of a shirt, shoulder, shoulder of a hill or mountain, hands of a watch. So this is how metaphors they can be made use of. Some of the metonymies are having the relationship of part and whole, all hands on deck, whole for a part, to fill up the car, container for content, I have a glass, so content is there in the glass. Material for object, a glass and iron. Producer for product, have a lone bra, buy a Ford. Instead of a car, you can say buy a Ford. Buy a Honda. Instead of the specific name of a car, you say buy a Honda. Place for institution, talks between Washington and Moscow. So instead of the two governmental institutions, we are talking about the place. Place for event, control for controller. The buses are on strike. Cause for effect. And the same things you can find in metaphor as well. Well, dear audience, I have talked about that how ambiguity is created. I have talked about there is lexical ambiguity, there is syntactic ambiguity, and ambiguity is created with the help of some figures of speech like metaphor, metonymy, and similes and synecdoches. So we need to understand that how we are going to disambiguate this ambiguity. Johnny wrote a letter. Now we don't know whether we are talking about the character, We don't know whether we are talking about letter which is a message written to someone, or we don't know that we are talking about in sentence 3 like gamma is the third letter of the Greek alphabet. So it is clear that we are talking about the characteristic, but the first two sentences, they are not clear. So Johnny wrote a letter to Patty. Now it is clear that it's a kind of message which is written from Johnny to Patty. In some other lecture, I will be talking about the kinds of metaphors, but for this lecture, that is enough. Remember, in order to disambiguate the ambiguity, we need to understand the context. That in what context the sentence is spoken, in what context the text is produced, who is the producer of the text, who is going to consume the text, what is the relationship of the writer with the reader, and what kind of values and religious systems he or she adheres to, and then what kind of metaphors he is bringing from his own culture or society. So in context, I have talked about that there is linguistic context, there is socio-cultural context, there is pragmatic context, there is religious context, there is cognitive context. So we need to understand all these kinds of context and then see that what kind of meaning variation is produced by the particular use of a word, how the author is making use of the word, what kind of sentences and sentences before that sentence or after that sentence they are coming. So you will have to see the language which is there on a piece of paper so that you should be in a position to disambiguate the ambiguity which is residing in the text. Another sentence that I would like to discuss here is James Joyce is difficult to understand. Now this sentence has got multiple readings. If you relate the sentence to James Joyce, the writer, you may first of all take it as something like the writing of James Joyce are difficult to understand. But if you imagine a context where you think the author is alive, the sentence might also mean that the way he talks, the way he expresses himself, or the way he acts is difficult to understand. The university lies in the eastern part of the town. The university has closed down the Faculty of Agriculture. The university starts again on April 15th. The subject, the university, refers to the campus in A. To the institutional body, the university lies in the eastern part of the town. And to courses at the university has closed down the Faculty of Agriculture. So we are talking about the courses. Again, this is not a case of polysemy. The word university lends itself naturally to the meaning shifts that create these readings. We do not have to know each of them. Many other words with similar meanings exhibit the same kind of variation, like school, theatre, opera, parliament, and so on. The same kind of variation is also paralleled in other languages. This kind of variation is not rooted in lexical ambiguity. Its source is more general. So it means that we will have to see that how meanings they shift. The word is university, but at one time we are talking about the campus, at other time we are talking about the courses, and third time we are talking about all the courses which are going to be started on a particular day. So the word remains the same, but metonymically this word university is used in the following sentences. They were China's cowboys. Now here it refers to deal makers. The expression China's cowboys is a metaphorical sense. The person referred to are not claimed to be cowboys, but to be in some way like cowboys. In this case, they resemble cowboys in that they are swaggering, fast talking, and throwing things around. The metaphor is further developed in 8c. Then the sheriff came to the town. So in my today's class, I have talked about ambiguity. And I have talked about that ambiguity is created with the help of homonyms, polysemic words, and through lexical relations. So we will have to see the context. We will have to understand that what is the role of ambiguity, how these words are made use of in the text by the author. Authors usually do all these things knowingly. They try to create ambiguity in the text so that you should also apply your abilities onto the text to understand it. And when multiple readers, they read the text, multiple understandings are generated, multiple meanings are generated, and in this way the authors they feel happy about it. So in order to disambiguate the ambiguity, you will have to have the knowledge of all these things, and you should understand the sentence in the context. Thank you very much.